That's Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir with Friend of the Wounded Heart. And I'm loving this message here. This is great songs. The recent immediate generation will appreciate that song's day before. Friend of the Wounded Heart, indeed. And Mama says, Friend of a Broken Heart. Have you heard Vicky do the song? No, I have not. Says, oh my God, I was so ministered to when I heard her sing. I think I did not even know my heart was broken behind all my bravado. But as she sang, Jesus, the all-knowing Noah, reached behind the walls that hid me, and he met me where I was, and the healing begun. I love these kind of songs from Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir, and I'm glad that it's been a blessing to some of you listening in today. This is Sunny 88.7. I've been looking forward today. I have three lovely ladies with me, and I just want to do a brief, maybe I'll do like a three-liner and then let them do more by telling us more about themselves. I'll start off with Danielle. Let me mention we're live on Facebook. We had to do this live on Facebook so you can join in the conversation. Some of you, when I mentioned we're going to talk, we're like, yeah, I also have a child with autism. I think I want to listen to this one to hear some of the experiences they shared. Or my son or my daughter just got diagnosed with ADHD. You're someone like that. You want to keep it down on Sunny FM. Or you have a friend or a sister who's just mentioned this to you. Tell them to join in this conversation. We're live on our Facebook page, also on YouTube, and you can share the link. So let me start off with Danielle. Danielle is a corporate risk and insurance director and founder and CEO of Ann X Joseph LLC. She's a mother of two wonderful children who has been living in Ghana with her family for almost 2 years, and her eldest child was given an autism diagnosis 6 years ago. She's going to be telling us more about that. I also have Justina Safwa-Jai with me. She's inclusion lead at Africa Dyslexia Organization. She is a seasoned educator and former school principal with over 30 years of experience dedicated to holistic development of children. And she was diagnosed later in life with ADHD, and she has first-hand experience of navigating some of the barriers. So she's going to be sharing more about that with us this morning. Some of you may have heard Rosalind quite a number of times on the IMDrive. So this one may sound familiar. She's executive director of Africa Dyslexia Organization, and Rosalind is an unwavering advocate for dyslexic individuals. She holds an MSc in International Hospitality. She's done some great work at Walt Disney as well. And yes, she's the woman in charge, and she's dyslexic. She's not just running, she knows it. And so she's in charge at Africa Dyslexia Organization. Ladies, you are welcome to Sunny 88.7 FM. You're all looking, I love your smile. They're all sunny this morning. Great to have you join us. So I'm wondering where to even start from. Maybe let me start off with you, Rosalind. It's Neurodiversity Week. How do you feel about the celebration? In fact, before you come, let me go to Justina. Tell us a little more about neurodiversity. Some people are hearing me mention Neurodiversity Week celebration and all. What is it? What is it all about in this week's celebration?
Okay, so neurodiversity.
Okay, please hit the button on your microphone. Yes, and let it a little closer to you.
So neurodiversity is an umbrella term which explains that our mind, is diverse. We have different minds. We think differently. We process differently. And so the celebration week is a time set aside globally to look at the fact that actually we are not all the same. We are diverse in our mind, how our neurons are put together in our brains is different, and that's something to be celebrated, not something to be scared of or ashamed of, but to be celebrated, because in those differences there is wonderment, and there is innovation, and there is creativity, and there are so many elements of us as neurodivergents that we need to acknowledge and recognize as a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get to Rosalind. Rosalind, your thoughts on Neurodiversity Week, the celebration? No.
I am excited. This is happening. Neurodiversity Week. It might be something very new to people in this part of the world, but just like Justina mentioned, we are all different people. Some brains are wired differently. Some come with a bit of a challenge, but it doesn't mean that the ability is not on spot. So how can we celebrate the strength of neurodiverse people? And some people may be wondering, who are the neurodiverse people?
Exactly.
So for example, a person with ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, giftedness, Down syndrome, autism, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and a lot more made up the kind of community of the neurodiverse people. And but then if you look deeply into this, all of these come with some form of challenges. And oftentimes society kind of dwells so much on the challenge aspect. So if my child is autistic, the way my child is behaving, or the way that a child is behaving at home, in school, at church, then that's what we picked on.
Yeah.
And then forget about, okay, this child is autistic, this child is dyslexic. What are they good at? What can we build on so that these people will have a fulfilling life? And there is so many research that is put out there that shows that neurodiverse people are some of the most creative, innovative minds that we have in this world. Elsewhere. But then when it comes to our parts of the world, like in Africa, we tend to hide these children, especially our Down syndrome kids, our autistic kids, even dyslexia people. They will say that it's something of spiritual. So for neurodiversity, it is here for us to bring to light some of these strengths that we are blind to it, so that we celebrate them, we are aware of them. And if you're a parent and you have a child who falls within this bracket, this is the time to open your eye, so that we can all work together and make sure your child is on the right path, so that we also can have those innovators, creativeness on the continent.
You're listening to us, and you have a friend whose child has received a diagnosis, and they feel like this is the end for me and my child. Can you just go to Facebook and see these women seated? I think just seeing them is inspiring enough that this is probably the beginning of something more beautiful in your life. I see Odetola has joined us. Says hello, Odetola from Nigeria. Thank you for joining us, our sister from Nigeria. Let me get to Danielle. I loved it when Rosalind said we need to think about what thing these children are good at. And your child was diagnosed with autism. I want to first find out from you, what is he good at? What are some of the things you've discovered about him that just make you smile?
So it's funny. So just to backtrack just a bit.
So get a little closer for me. And then,
sorry.
Yes,
better?
That's much
Great.
better.
So just to backtrack just a bit.
Sure.
Just to piggyback off of what Rosalind just said, in terms of finding out and highlighting what they're actually good at. So my son, he's 9. He's going to be 10 soon.
Okay.
He was 3.5 years old when he was diagnosed. He was my first child. I didn't have any other friends with children around his age. So obviously, you go into this thinking I had a healthy pregnancy, I had a healthy baby, but certain signs, specifically to autism, you don't start seeing them until they're around 2 and a half when it comes to, meeting milestones, etc. In the beginning, it's great to get to that point where, you can see what they're good at and highlight that stuff, but it's a work in progress because in the beginning, the biggest challenge really is communication.
Okay.
Because you have this young child where they're trying their best to communicate their needs to you, and in some cases where, in my son's case, it was a language barrier,
Right.
He was essentially non-speaking at the time. We weren't aware of why he was non-speaking, so a lot of frustration comes in where you think they're not understanding you, or like you said, you may think, oh, they're just misbehaving, they're being bad, they're not listening.
Were you living in Ghana at the time?
Oh, I was living in, we had just moved from the U.S. to Trinidad and Tobago.
To Trinidad and
so
Tobago.
we're professional expats. We've been
Okay.
hopping around the world for a while now, but
He has helping parents.
he certainly does. But I think that's what it gives me so much passion to speak about this, because for every move we've made, he's always been at the forefront of it. So we just didn't decide we were going to move here. An opportunity came up for my husband's career for us to move here.
Okay.
But before we take any new opportunity, the first thing we do, we visit the country, visit the schools, make sure that there are supports in place. So just to jump a few years ahead, because I know we'll have an opportunity to get into that.
Yes.
But through getting a diagnosis, through jumping into therapy right away, I always say speech therapists, I don't know what they do, but it's like magic.
Yeah,
and
it is.
now I say sometimes my son, it's like, okay, can mommy have a breather?
Oh, boy.
I went from praying and praying and praying that my son would speak to me.
I know
to
that
now,
feeling.
I left the house, he said, mommy, what time are you coming back again?
Oh.
And if I say 9:30, 9:31, he's gonna
He's gonna
Mom, where
call.
are you?
Okay.
You know, but my son is
Wow.
brilliant when it comes to math.
Oh.
He does his math homework manually. I take my
Okay.
iPhone out to double check to make sure. I'm like, how did you get that number? He is
Yeah.
brilliant. He
Wow.
is amazing at art. He's just such a wonderful person. And again, we'll get into that. But we don't know what our children are capable of unless
Yes.
we give them the right therapy, the right supports to get that out of them. Because if we're not able to communicate with them to understand what's bothering you, what do you need? What do you need from me? What do I need from you? That's where we need to start instead of punishing our children and thinking, oh, they're just misbehaving, they're just bad, and that's how we started.
That's
That's
awesome.
where we are in terms of what he's really good at, but I want
You mentioned having to find a school that would work for moving to Ghana, and I really wish you can share more about that with us. How was the process? Was it
Okay.
easy finding a school that could support your son?
Yes. So even with that, so I'll go back to one of Rosine's points as well. I don't, in forums like this, I specify my son's diagnosis.
Okay.
But in general, I think, we all have some little quirk about us that makes us different and makes us unique.
Yeah.
So for us, in terms of finding schools for not just my son, my daughter, she's neurotypical, but still,
Okay.
we like to have them in the same environment. I don't necessarily focus on his diagnosis. I
Okay.
focus on him as an individual.
Okay.
And I think that's important for all children.
Okay.
Everywhere we've moved to, there's certain, schools where they say this is the, cream of the crop, this is where you need to go. And if your child is more outgoing and that's the school for them, that's fine. But we visited about 10 schools.
10.
Yes.
Okay.
We're very thorough. And we narrowed it down to about 2.
Okay.
And, I won't say names, but it's all within the area. And for us, what we needed was a school where there was a small class size.
Okay.
Where there was diversity, where there were a mix of neurotypical children, children with different needs, and so that's kind of how we narrowed it down. And again, I say this is not specific just to autistic children or children with ADHD. I honestly think we as parents need to kind of take a step back in terms of how we approach schooling for our children. Even me growing up, I was very quiet, I was shy. I'm a bit more outgoing now, but we shouldn't force our children into school systems that do not work well with their personalities, because we can be causing a lot more damage than we
That's
realize.
true.
And it doesn't come out, or it may be festering for a while, and they may not realize it until they're at university. So that's just my 2 cents in general on kind of how we approach the school search.
And Justine, I'll be coming to you in a bit. I have Edmore Chingoy. We have some Nigerian viewers today. Says, I love it when you talk about focusing on what neurodiverse people can do than their diagnosis. And first, it says, God bless you for the enlightenment and encouragement. Daniel, I hope you can remember the first time you heard your son say a word or two. How did that feel?
If you ask us, I'll cry. And
Don't. Just you can cry just a little bit. Okay, let me.
But I will say,
Yeah.
I will say this. It felt wonderful because initially also, so for those who are familiar with autism, there's something called echolalia, where your children, they'll repeat phrases they hear you say, and so sometimes that gives you false hope where you think, oh, they can speak, but they can't. They're just
Okay.
repeating phrases, and you realize that it's not always in the right, it's not always correct, how and when they say it. So it wasn't more of his first words, but it was the first time I realized I could have a conversation with him. I asked him a question
And he responded.
about his day, and he responded, and it was just like, wow. But I had to control myself because I didn't want him thinking like, what's
Yeah, what's happening?
What's happening? What's the problem? We're just having a conversation here, and you build on that, So it's you notice the little things,
Yeah.
And once you start to notice these little things, you don't have to rely on their weekly or bi-weekly therapy sessions. As parents, as at home, you take what you're learning from their therapists and you just sort of build that into, your daily routine. You're in the car with them, you're getting ready for school in the morning, and that's how it works. Instead of just waiting, I have two therapy sessions, an hour each, and that's it. No, we have to be actively involved as parents as well, 24/7.
So Daniela, I'll come back to you because I want to know how your perspective on parenting has changed since you found out about your son's diagnosis.
course.
But let me get to Justina. Justina, ADHD, You were diagnosed as an adult. What is ADHD and how has it influenced your relationships, both personally, professionally?
Yeah.
Yes.
So ADHD stands for Attention Hyperactivity Disorder, which actually is very contradictory when it comes to females. So the assumption and the stereotype that we have is boys predominantly who are very overactive, very energetic. But for me, my personal journey, and the disclaimer that I want to say is that no two people are the same, which we've already established. So even when it comes to ADHD, my experience is not going to be the same as someone else's experience. And it's really important that you hear the journey that people have had, and there may be similarities, but you don't think, oh, because they did that, that's what's going to happen for me. So it didn't. So for me, for many, many years, my earliest memory that I can go back to was when I was about 10. And I was in class and I had to do a maths exercise, and there was like about 10 questions and I got 2 wrong. And my teacher was giving out everyone's papers and he threw mine on the desk and he said, "You've got 2 wrong." And I burst into tears and I was sobbing and I was crying so much that you would think that something really catastrophic has happened to me. But I had very intense emotional responses to situations. Things that other people would be just like, oh, it's nothing. I would be devastated by it. When there was change, if you brought change into my environment unexpectedly and you didn't prepare me for it, I found it very, very difficult to manage. I would become quite rigid, you know. So we were supposed to go to the seaside today, and now you said we're not going. I will shut down emotionally. I will not engage. I will not speak. I will find it really, really difficult to manage that, to know that you said this, but you did this. And as I got older, those things were still present, but I think it didn't really come to the fore until my professional career started. And what I found was I found it very challenging working with people who were very controlling, who didn't allow me any flexibility, who didn't give me space to process information. So if you tell me something, I need time to work through it, to get an understanding. And then once I have an understanding, I can then move on to the next stage. But we work in professional contexts where everything is very fast paced. And so you're given an instruction and you have to have an output straight away. And that was really, really difficult for me. So that caused quite a lot of tension in my professional relationships, because I would get very frustrated and they would get very frustrated because we're not each doing what we need to do. And so communication, a bit like what Danielle was saying, was a huge part of my challenge, in that people didn't understand what I was saying and I didn't understand what they were saying, because our context was very different. And so what I had learned to do, and through therapy, I had years and years and years of therapy to get to this point, to even understand.
Do you still go through therapy?
So I don't, but if I need to, I go back to it. And I think one of the things that, if no message comes out in this Neurodiversity Celebration Week, is other than therapy is an extraordinary tool that is really, really beneficial in order to develop the strategies, the resources, the mindset to navigate things that other people take for granted. And so we have a misconception in society that you only go to therapy if you're mad. You know, there's something wrong with you. Your mental health is a problem. But actually therapy is a go-to before, you know, it's what prevents you going mad. It's what prevents you having mental health crisis. It's what helps you navigate these things and to help you overcome them. So we talk about early intervention. It's crucial, you know, getting therapy for children as early as you can is really, really important, because I had to learn the hard way and I had to learn it as an adult. So when we
around what age, Justina?
So I think I was about 48, 49.
48?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm about to give up my... give away
you just did it without noticing. Don't mind me.
So yeah. So what does that mean?
So you realized something was quite not, but till 48, when you could place your finger on, this is it.
Yeah, and it's really funny because I just thought I was odd all my life. I just thought I was a very odd person. When people said jokes, I didn't understand it. What people found funny, I didn't find funny. What I found funny, they didn't find funny. So when I'm with autistic people, we get on really well. So I mean, that might be, I may well be autistic, I don't know. I haven't that assessment.
Maybe at 55, you
maybe,
get to know
but
that.
Yeah, I just thought I was really odd. But once I had that confirmation, I made sense.
Okay.
For the first time in a long time, I made sense. And if we can give that to our children so they know that they make sense, they know that they are valuable, they are affirmed, they are celebrated, they are amazing and wonderful. You know, just like the Bible told us, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. You know, we are beautiful creatures. We are God's image bearers. If we can pump that into our children and help them, a lot of the issues that they have in school, at church, in society would be removed. So therapy is really important.
If you're listening to us, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. If you have a question, you have a comment, you can drop it below for our three lovely ladies. And if you just sort of touch a little bit of how society can support and accommodate individuals, but if there's something more you can share on that, how you believe society can better support and accommodate individuals with ADHD.
Yeah, I think the biggest barrier that we have as people within the neurodiverse world is the stigma and the assumptions. And so how people can help is open your mind, research, read, understand what these labels are and what they look like. But fundamentally understand that not everybody is the same. We are all different, and that's okay. You know, we don't have that problem when it comes to our tasting food. We don't have that problem when it comes to our clothing. We don't have that problem in terms of what careers we choose.
Right.
Everybody knows that, oh, you can be what you want to be. You can choose whatever career. But how our mind works, somebody somewhere told us that there's only one way that the mind works, and that's the only good way. And that's a lie. It's an absolute lie. There are so many ways the brain can work, and so many ways the brain does work. And the brain is a muscle. And so if there are areas that are really problematic, like for me, managing change was a really area, we can not manipulate, but we can exercise our mind and train our mind in a way that that's not such a big problem anymore. So we can't write people off and say, oh, you're useless, you know, you're unintelligent, you're blockheaded, you're all the names that we call people.
Yes.
We need to stop doing that. Let's stop calling our children names. Let's start speaking life into our children and tell them how amazing
you
they
will
are.
see, you will get. If he's blockheaded, that's what you're saying, that's what you get.
Yeah.
I'm glad if you're tuned in this morning. I'm with Daniela Ann Killen. She's founder and CEO of Ann X Joseph LLC. She's a mom with an autistic child. Justina, you just heard from Justina. She's been diagnosed with ADHD. And Rosin Chenati, I've had quite a few times on the IMDrive. She's dyslexic, and at least people listening, we know about autism today, ADHD. Let's talk about dyslexia with you, Rosalind. Yes. What challenges have you faced along the way as dyslexia? But first, what is dyslexia? Then we can get into that.
So dyslexia is a reading difficulty which is associated with difficulty in encoding and decoding of words. So children who are dyslexic will find it difficult when it comes to reading, especially to do with the sound in the alphabets that we use, and so that's where the difficulty is. The word dyslexia is a Greek word which is mean difficulty with words. So the this is difficulty, and then lexia is words. So sometimes when you mention dyslexia, people automatically say, oh, this is some form of a disease. But so that today I'm saying that it's a Greek word and it means difficulty with words. So that's what dyslexia is about. For me, as a person, I never knew I was dyslexic, but I always knew that I struggled. When it comes to learning, and when you're not good at reading, then it's hard that you're not good in a lot of subjects. So then you become last in class,
particularly in our school setting.
in the school setting, and even at home as well, because what's happened, especially in our part of the world, what happened in the school is how you are rated at home.
At home.
Are you first, are you second, or are you last? And if you are last, then it comes to either you're lazy, are you dumb, you're not making up your efforts. I didn't even have access to the cartoons for you to say, but then you're a bad girl, all kinds of names. So I accepted those words from the very beginning and thought that something was wrong with me as a person, because it shows. They're saying I'm lazy. I know I'm not, because I'm making efforts to learn,
real hard.
but then it's not translating onto the paper. When it's dictation, I get everything wrong and I'll receive the cane. So this went on and on and on and on until I finished my GHS, and then I failed, and it did confirm that yes, indeed, you're lazy, That stupid, you're not good. So I accepted that as my fate. But thankfully, it didn't stop me from going further, because somebody said I was good at something at one point, and then I took it upon, which is cooking, and went to a culinary school. And
You've had a whole career in that.
You see, so through that, I became like a young chef, started working in hotels, and then later in life, when I was at the mature student stage, I wrote an entrance exams and went to the university to pursue my master's, and went on to do my to bachelor's and then master's. So it was this at the master's level was when dyslexia came into being. And I tell you, the first time I did a screening on the International Dyslexia Association website, and everything that was there was me. Because they ask you questions. Do you find it hard to read in public? I hate reading in public. It gives me a lot of anxiety. Do you skip words when you're reading? I could see something boldly written, and I'll be saying different words to you. That's how my brain is working. So different words, kind of questions, and I went through, and I was like, this is me. Why is this describing me that they don't know? Why are they describing me? And so then I went for the diagnosis, which is a detailed assessment, and it did confirm that I'm dyslexic. And I'm like, so if I'm dyslexic, so that means I've been dyslexic all my life.
While.
And we don't
Receiving
know.
canes.
And receiving canes, and people putting labels on me. And so if not this gentleman, Evans, who said that, oh, you're good at cooking, then that means I probably would be somewhere in a town. What would I be learning? Because some of the thing was go and do hairdressing, go and learn how to sew. These are things I can't even do. So if I had gone through any of those paths, I would have lost on the way.
Edmore is watching us, says, I can relate to Rosalind. Mental work was a hell of exercise, leading to caning and tears. Rosalind, you've had quite a career. You've had quite an experience, quite some good exposure along the way in life. And I want you to share with us some strategies that have been helpful in the workplace for you as a dyslexic individual.
So even before I got to know that I'm dyslexic, I developed my own
strategy
of learning.
Share with us.
And in the junior high school level, what I used to do was I will go, they will ask you to be reading from paragraph to paragraph.
Yes.
And so most time I will go and sit at the back by my friend Anna, who is very, very good academically, and then count heads and know that, okay, from her to this guy, this is the paragraph I'm going to be reading. And then I'll ask Anna to be reading to me. And so by the time it gets to me, I will know some of the words. But guess what? Because of the whole anxiety, sometimes it gets to me and I have forgotten everything that has been read to me. And I would rely on my friends to help me in the exams, which is not good. But then the one that really worked for me at the university level is I was recording all my lectures. So I had a recorder with me. They never knew, but I had it because I didn't know how they would perceive it if they knew that I struggle. So I record everything, and when I go home, hard work, re-listen before. Also, because I was doing hospitality management and I've worked in the hospitality industry for long, it was a little easy to kind of connect my practical sense to the theoretical aspects of the school. But then once I advanced, there were tools that I love to use. Grammarly is a very good one, so I have it on my emails that helps me to correct my grammar, because to date, as I'm sitting here, I don't know good grammar. I don't know what grammar is. I don't know where to put my punctuations, my full stops, and all that.
Yes, she writes very beautiful posts on Facebook. Go follow her.
Because I use assistive technology. So we have
the tools are available.
Yeah, your computers that you use and everything. We have text to speech, speech to text. We have Grammarly. Now you even have ChatGPT, EditGPT, and all those coming. And people frown on, but if you're using all these assistive technologies, like you're cheating. No, because if you put garbage in any of these assistive technology. It will give you garbage out. You can never bring out anything substantial. So you have to be creative. You have to know exactly what you're doing. You have to write it yourself, and that edit and correct all your grammars and all the things that are not good and fine tune it. So for me as an adult, this is how I work.
That's how those are a few
But when it
strategies.
comes to our kids, yes, there will be a stage where a child can use assistive technology, but I believe in early intervention.
Okay.
Because I know myself, if I had received early intervention, adequate one, because I'm a visual and a kinesthetic learner, I would have been good. It would have corrected a lot of things from the stage. But if you don't do early intervention and the child gets from 15 upwards, then it becomes harder. Then they need to find their way of mechanism to learn.
Let me get to Danielle. I was excited when Rosie told me about a prayer you would say over your son. But before we get into that, just share some support systems that have particularly helped you as a mom. And then let's get into that prayer. I really want to hear that prayer.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in terms of support systems, again, just because we've, right, is this better?
Yeah.
In terms of support systems, because we've, every few years essentially, we've moved around, we've sort of had to create our own support system within our small family of me and my husband. We now have a daughter who, she's her she thinks she's the older sibling. She is his biggest protector. She's the sweetest thing. But, for us, it's, and for me specifically, we were having this conversation earlier where what I've started doing now is, instead of listening to experts, and I should have started by saying this, I'm no expert, so I just love to give my opinion as a parent in terms of, the things that we looked out for, in terms of schooling, different things you can do, because also with therapy, although it is incredible and it's amazing, in the past few years, we've lived in the U.S., we've lived in Trinidad, we've lived in the Cayman Islands, and now we're here. Everywhere we go, therapy is very expensive. So, it's necessary, but, the thing is also, there are some parents who are not able to access it. But there are certainly tools online, there are different things that you can do where you can work with your child versus just casting them aside and saying, they're bad, they don't want to listen, So there are definitely different tools that you can use to sort of help support your child, even in speaking with the schools, because no school is going to get it right. So, back to your point, we do that with our school as well. Although they're supportive, we may notice certain things over the weekend and just say, can we schedule a meeting with his team at school to say, this is something we've noticed, this is what we've done that's helped. So, if you see this within school and the school day or the school week, this is how you can sort of implement a strategy to sort of help him. So it's always a team effort with the parents, the schools, everyone else.
Just before you get into the prayer, I'm seeing, I'm looking at my time, and I'm looking at the great questions coming through in the comments. I'm like, Lord, I'm also trying to figure out how I'm going to do all of this.
Oh, no.
Fabia says, hi, JJD. Glad you have these amazing women in your studio. I want your thoughts on how to explain to our children how best to relate to neurodiverse children. For example, my 5-year-old daughter has a classmate with autism who's quite attached to my daughter. She would always want to hug her and give her a kiss, but would bite her off her or pinch her afterwards. My daughter's getting frustrated, and almost always the first thing she would want to bring up when I pick her up from school. Yeah, some
this was
parents
something
have
that I actually wanted to bring up, and I'll try to. I naturally speak pretty quickly, so
Sure.
hopefully it's not too fast. But that's actually a huge issue, and I found that in terms of everywhere else we've lived, it's been the biggest issue here for us. So there's two things. First off, regardless of what your child's diagnosis may be, there also have to be boundaries. So that falls on the parents. So jumping to the part where the child may bite your child or something like that, the parents, you still, in whatever way you communicate, they need to understand boundaries and that things like that are not okay. However, it is so important, and we've experienced that here. It's so important for parents and teachers, and that's why I love that you go into schools and you educate teachers and parents and educators what to look out for, because a lot of little children, they're not aware of the fact that not every child is like me.
Yes.
And so if your child feels left out, or if they feel bullied and it's not intentional, I don't necessarily blame the children, because they're not aware of the fact that, wait a minute, not all children are different. So I think a lot of the onus falls on us as parents as well as the educators to let these children know that we are not all the same. We're all different. So you may see a certain child doing something or acting a certain way or speaking a certain way. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. They're just different, they all want to be. They want to be your friend. They want to play. You may need a break sometimes because it may be overwhelming. But
yes.
we need to embrace them all. It's so important.
Okay.
And again, I say it falls on us as parents to begin with, to teach our children that not everyone is going to be like you, and that's okay.
Not everybody's going to score 18 over 18 in spelling like you. Just did you want to? Yeah, I could see you wanted to come in shortly on that.
So I wanted to talk about the behaviours. Now, what we have to understand, and I 100% agree with you, Daniela, it comes to us as parents, and I also add educators in that. So what people have to understand is every single behaviour is a form of communication.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything. So that child that's hugging and biting, there's something that they're communicating. And what we need to do is we need to work out what is it that they're communicating. And a lot of the times it comes down to their sensory experiences. So whatever is happening in terms of what they can see, what they can hear, what they can smell, what they can taste. And it's really, really important that we understand that. So for example, that particular child, it may be their way of expressing their excitement at being with their friend invokes them biting as a way of them saying, you're my person.
Because they have no other
Because they
sensory
don't have any other way of communicating that.
Yes.
It might be that actually at that point that they bite, there might be a lot of noise going on and they don't know how to manage that. But they don't have the communication skills that they can say, it's really noisy in here, I'm really hot, my t-shirt is really itching me, I'm hungry, I want to sit next to you, I don't want someone else to sit next to you. All of these different things could be going through and it comes out in the behaviour. But what we've tended to do in society is we punish the behaviour that we think is not acceptable, and we don't have the patience to look at why is the behaviour happening. And it's really important to know why is the behaviour happening, because once you know the why, you can put in the strategies to support. And also, if children have sensory needs, there are resources. Like some children, they need things that they can bite on regularly whenever they need it. That will limit how much they bite other things because they have something safe to bite on. It might be the food that they eat, it might be what they're drinking. So I think there's a lot of education that's needed around what is creating the behaviour, what is trying to be communicated via the behaviour, and then how we as adults respond to it, because the children then will learn from us. If we are like, oh my gosh, I've been in schools where teacher will be like, bite them back, they're biting, bite them back. If we role model those kind of responses, that's what the children will pick up.
I guess I'm excited we're doing this because some people genuinely do not understand, do not know, and it takes interviews like this or listening to radio and catching a conversation like this to change our mindset. I have 2 minutes. I still don't know how we're going to, because I feel like I've just started with my questions, but we have to do this prayer. Tell me about this prayer, Julian.
So
Danielle,
this prayer is, the past few months there's been a lot going on with me, and I have a neighbor turned dear friend who I've become close with in Ghana, and for some reason I just opened up about everything to her, and she has this prayer book. She said, give me 1 second. And she sent me about 10 prayers to address everything that I communicated to her, and it felt like these prayers were written specifically for me. But there were a few that she sent about my son, because he was going through something similar. And just quickly, to address the biting, because we're running out of time, I have a tool for that. So perhaps I'll go on Facebook after. Perhaps I can comment on on this.
The conversation will be glad.
Absolutely,
we'll be
I can link resources.
Sure.
But I would love to share this prayer, because this is not specifically to autistic children. It's a prayer that I now pray every morning for my son. I've shared it with my husband. He does the same, and I think it applies for all of our children. So I'll try to slow down.
Sure.
Have a minute
Take your
left.
time with that one. That's very important.
Yes.
It's like the most important part of this.
So this prayer is about feeling loved and accepted as a child. Lord, I pray that you would help me to love this child unconditionally the way you do, and enable me to show it in a manner he can perceive. Reveal to me how I can demonstrate and model your love to him, so that it will be clearly understood. I pray that all my family members will love and accept him, and may he find favor with other people as well. With each day that he grows in the confidence of being loved and accepted, as he comes to fully understand the depth of your love for him, make him a vessel through which your love flows to others.
That's a mother's prayer.
Beautiful.
And you're listening to us. I think that's one of the things you can't afford to not do for your child. To speak a prayer, declare God's word over their lives. I was so delighted to hear about. I'm like, we need to do this before our time runs out. I have a question here that says, how does one identify a child presenting these behavioral patterns? It's not just being fussy. I think you've addressed that one. So I'm going to give you like 20 seconds each. I don't know how you're going to do it, but just to wrap up this morning, who do we start? Maybe Rosalind, 20 seconds. 19,
so
18,
I
don't
would-
mind me. Just kidding.
I would just encourage
Okay.
educators, schools in general, to be open for us to come to their school
Okay.
to educate them on some of these things. Not just schools, churches, everywhere. So we need platform to amplify this awareness because it's needed. Those were the time where we shy away and put these children at the back of the house. This time we're putting them in front because they have more strength than we can imagine. They have a lot to give to society. And so I would say let's all come together to support the work that we're doing. Thank you very much, AJ, for having
Thank you,
us.
Rosalind. You owe me.
I
You
know.
exceeded your time. Let me get to Justina.
Okay, so Neurodiversity Celebration Week, our brains are all different and that is okay. And let's celebrate, start from a place of what we can do and build on rather than focusing on what we can't do. Because when we focus on what we can't do, we're at a deficit and it's very, very hard to overcome that. But if we focus on what we can do and build on it, we already have a foundation.
Awesome. Let me get to you, Danielle.
For me, I would say, especially for younger children, focus on your child as an individual. Just ignore all of the other noise. Don't compare your child to other children. Focus on them as an individual. If you have the resources, therapy is the most amazing thing. Even if you go to one session and you get some tools out of that session, there's so many different things, even on Amazon. Quickly, I just have to address the biting. My son, when he's anxious about something and he's not able to address it, we have a pack of 20, they're called chewy necklaces. So sometimes he needs them, sometimes he doesn't. He'll bite his shirt if he's anxious. And it's just a necklace and it doesn't look like anything. It's kind of a cool necklace and he can chew on that. So I say that to say there are very cost-effective different things that if we're not able to afford therapy, that we can access that can help our children to get through the school day. And if anyone has any questions, we can put more information out there.
Yeah.
Please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share any resources that I have
That's awesome.
available
So
to you.
number, can I get one number? When they get through to you, they can get through to everybody.
They can WhatsApp 0243-535553. And if you're out of Ghana, please add +233-243-535553. Or go to Africa Dyslexia.
There, that's easier.
.org, and you can get in touch with all of us.
So when you reach out to Rosa, you're sorted. You get everybody and anybody
Yes.
need to get to. Oh, fabulous says thank you. That is very helpful. I have loved this. It's been very enlightening with you. And I was just thinking of the song "Just Be You" by Anthem Lights. For all of you out there. Yeah.
Always you make a way. Feeling on your face. Oh, happy. Yeah, no trouble. Everybody say, Listen.